All right now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you're listening to the most influential urban conservative show in the world. Yes, tonight it's New Day, Black and Red, with your host, Dr. Michael Jones, and his sidekick, the pissant, the peon, the virtual nobody, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking forward to a wonderful conversation regarding evil. Are Americans ready to coexist with evil? I think some of us are. Ladies and gentlemen, without a shadow of a doubt, I want to thank Mrs. Biggs for watching us on live stream and Ustream, making us look good. Good at it. Also, my bouncer, Mary Brockman, in the chat roll tonight. If you diss her, you diss me, and you will be dismissed. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take this particular moment in time in history to reach out to none other than the bearded wonder, the man with the master plan, none other than the good doctor himself, Dr. Michael Jones. Here we go. Give him that phone call now. Good evening, Dr. Michael Jones.
Yes, that would be me.
That is you. Yes, sir. We left some Amazon packages on your front porch. Are you still here?
Yeah. Don't joke about that. We have a lot of problems. I'm sitting on my bed with the whole system right now because I tore up my office and my entire office has been unplugged, unwired, and there's books stacked everywhere. So we are stuck with old tech here right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, man. So you're using sticks and fire right now, am I correct?
Basically. I rubbed two dogs together to create a spark.
Created a Sparky.
I think you heard that Trump's in our backyard tonight. He's over there where we were stomping around in Dallas.
Really?
Gillies, which is a big country honky tonk.
So
he was turned down by several cities for this juncture, and the media tried to make it up like they didn't want Trump, but the simple fact was it was so short notice, security and stuff were the major reason, or some of the venues were filled, and they didn't have the space for them. So again, it's the media of the left trying to, and the right, by the way, fabricate a narrative for us to follow, and it's very disturbing to see the lies and the manipulations of the media and what we're dealing with right now.
That is absolutely true. Tonight we are with Dr. Michael Jones, the Underground Professor. You can find all of his great work at undergroundprofessor.us. He is the #1 urban conservative talk show host in the world. I'm second. I am his understudy, the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. You're listening to New Day, Black and Red, and this, my friends, is a beloved gathering on Thursday nights at 9:05 p.m. on SHR Media. Also, Internet Conservative Radio Network at 2 in the morning, and High Plains Pundit Media Live as well. This is a social gathering where we discuss the spiritual and constitutional aspects of current events here and around the world. We are so great that we do not merely confine ourselves to the current events of the lamestream media. We reach above and beyond all that to bring to you the delights and pleasures of constitutionalism and illiberal discernment. uh, especially in this constitutionally federated republic. Do I get brownie points, sir?
Sure.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Uh, Professor, a lot of things have been happening around the world uh, and here at home. Earlier today, a British politician was assassinated as she was about to speak to her constituents regarding staying in the European Union rather than leaving. Earlier this week, we had the Orlando matters, and a lot of innocent alligators died this week because of what happened in Orlando.
Yes.
So when we come back from this particular break, which is the Pledge of Allegiance break, I want to start with you, sir, regarding some of the current events and your wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, take off your hats. Okay, even the bald guys, take off your hats. Put your hand over your heart. The right hand, people. You're just new to this country.
It's yarmulke, not my bald spot.
It's almost Friday, so you can wear it. So, put your hand over your heart, and let us pledge allegiance along with the kids tonight.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, there we go. You know, that might be missing after this election, sir. Pledging allegiance.
It might be illegal.
It just might be illegal in this country.
Yes.
This has been a really harsh week. Started out on Sunday. It seems to be continuing on. But it seems to be a victorious week for those on the left. And we seem to have our tail between our legs on the right. Sir, your thoughts on the things that were going on this week?
Well, my thoughts are you should have listened to the first hour of my show.
And what is the name of that show, sir? It's The Underground Professor. There we go.
Yes. I think that the left has been masterful at the way they have manipulated all of these events to their favor when they help facilitate and cause and create the environment where these things can occur. This week wasn't about gay rights. It was about the constitutional right to defend oneself. The right to life is important in the events. Parental oversight too. What's the deal with kids lately and animals snatching them from parents? We had the gorilla last week, and this week it's the alligator, and now the alligator doing what alligators do is going to be killed. They've killed 4 or 5 looking for the kid. They find the kid 15 yards away from where he was taken, and then he is sadly found dead, as we knew he would be, but now they're killing all these alligators for that. And then over here in my backyard, up there by Eagle Mountain Lake, they found some crocodiles that are causing problems, so they're going to kill them too, as soon as we get permission. Disney, by the way, has permission to kill any alligators it wants, anytime. But our city, we have to get permission from the feds in order to kill them because they're an endangered species.
So the left will change its opinion on things based on how they project it in the media. It's okay to,
Yeah. I don't know if the parents did anything wrong, but the kid was wading in the water, and it was posted no swimming. So maybe they should post a sign instead of saying no swimming because the kid wasn't swimming; he was walking around in the water. Maybe they should post man-eating crocodiles don't go in. Because there could be any number of reasons not to swim. Garbage in the water, bad poisonous water. But I tell you what, I may wade and walk around in the water with my bare feet. But if there's a sign that says man-eating crocodiles, I probably would not test that one. I would probably just say, okay, next.
See, but this is my thing, Professor, regarding the gator thing. First and foremost, I think it was gator profiling earlier, where all those gators were killed.
Well, I hate to say it, but all gators look alike.
That's it. They do.
All the gator Americans.
Now, I'm quite certain that the National Gator Association for the Advancement of Man-Eaters is quite upset with that particular remark, and you will be receiving letters from them.
Well, I understand that. The hater-taters are going to hate, but the thing is that these weren't traitor gators; they were terrorist gators. It's time we acknowledge that. I think that we need to acknowledge that. Agador is exactly right on there. There's something interesting about crocodiles and gators. If you ever touched one, I have, but they remarkably have the same soft and subtle skin that my ex-wife had.
Before or after the Brazilian?
Well, you know why they call it a Brazilian?
And why is that, sir?
Because when you rip all that hair off, they can hear the woman down in Brazil going,
But I know a lot of people might be listening to us tonight and saying, "Wow, you people." No, they do. You're the #1 urban conservative talk show in the world. So, I mean, they have to be listening to you. I'm riding on your coattails.
Yo.
As a peon that I am. But, a lot of people might say that we're making light of a very serious situation. But when did common sense escape us? I mean...
That's unconstitutional.
Common sense.
Yes, it's unconstitutional. Look, when all of our politics is divided by hash marks, because of what kind of an American you are or what kind of sex you have, that takes us away from what government's true job is, and it takes us away from having the argument that government is not obeying the enumerated powers of the Constitution. And if we can make it about something else, then they can make it about how they have that power to enforce that or to create a law or whatever. It's like the Constitution says that Congress has no right to monkey around with gun laws, period. And yet the president is out and is attacking the gun instead of Islam, and is attacking the gun instead of the gunman. And that we need more gun laws, even though all the gun laws they've shoved on us, this man complied with.
But wait a minute.
So it takes away the argument about what we really should be debating, and it will be about enforcing more gun laws on law-abiding people. Meanwhile, Democrats are out there committing all this gun violence, and nothing is being done to them.
But wait a minute, Professor. It's not just the Wiener Mobile Obama and his sidekick Hillary, kill him if you got him, Rodham Clinton.
Right.
Donald Trump is negotiating with the NRA.
Well,
that's
I bet
unfathomable.
they're really happy having that earliest endorsement ever by the NRA, huh? I bet those turkeys are sitting proud. They sent me a renewal of my dues. I told them to pound salt.
There you go.
Remember what happened to me when I went to a Trump rally and darn near got arrested by the Secret Service for having a concealed license. and a weapon, even though I was in compliance with posted signage.
Yes.
And so, and at that rally, where I was forbidden to have my concealed carry weapon, Trump was praising how great concealed carry weapon licenses are and how many lives they save. But if somebody had come into that place with a gun, we'd been dead.
Yeah.
Just like at that dance hall. And as I was closing up my first hour and waiting for you, I was saying this, that if another person had been in there with a gun, a good guy with a gun, then this would have been a whole different thing. It would have been a whole different thing. And if there had been 2 or 3 more people that had exercised their God-given right to defend themselves by packing heat, then this guy would have been shot a lot sooner, and a lot more people would be alive today. This isn't about the fact that he got a gun. The real story is about how no one else could defend themselves. And why? Because even if you have a right to have a gun, there are all these additional barriers where you can't go in if they're serving alcohol.
Yes.
And one side would say, well, that makes common sense, Professor. You don't want a bunch of drunk people, with guns. Well, okay, I get that. But if you have a concealed carry license, then the amount of alcohol you're allowed to consume is 0 while you're bearing arms.
Yes.
So, okay, so if they won't follow that rule, then why would they follow any of the other rules? Again, only the honest and law-abiding people follow laws. By its very nature, lawbreakers do not follow laws, or at least not the ones that the government makes.
Exactly.
But needless to say, if just a couple of people had been in there with guns, and I'm surprised, quite frankly, that there weren't anybody in there with illegal guns that could have, come to the rescue and stop this sooner.
So what we have
more to that story, I think, than what we know.
So what we have learned about homosexuals is that they do not carry. So
hey. Well, I don't know that. I mean, in Texas, I associate with a lot of homosexuals I know.
Yeah.
And some of them bear arms and some don't. And no, it's not the effeminate ones that won't wear guns. There's some of them are masculine, some feminine. They some wear guns, some don't. It's just like any other group of people.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with their homosexuality. I mean, it'd be an easy joke to make, but in
Yeah.
all reality, it is not their sexuality that is at play in this. It's just their opinions and feelings about it. But a lot of it is driven by the fact that a lot of the homosexual community does not feel like they belong in the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you saying, Dragon? What did I get wrong? Because I'm pretty sure I'm right on what I just said.
You are.
They don't feel comfortable in the Republican Party, and so they're Democrats. And the Democrat Party is anti-gun. There can't be an argument being made by that at all. That they're pro-gun in the Democrat Party. So some of this may just carry over in that as a political thing, but gay people are just like everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's what's saying. Dragon, I have a lady on here that listens to my show, and her wife wants a pink gun, probably a 9mm or something. You see, and that's what I'm saying, is that it's not a difference of masculine versus feminine or butch and feminine that dictates this. It's just who they are as an individual. And so I'm saying that both masculine and feminine homosexuals, male and female, some of them want guns and some don't, just like any other group of people, Baptists, or Catholics, or baseball players, or cement truck drivers. I mean, if you take any group of people, there's going to be some that want it and some that don't.
Exactly.
And that's the beautiful thing about being in this country. The bad thing is that they should have. The good thing is they should have a right to choose whether or not they're going to wear a weapon to protect themselves. The bad news is the government thinks that they know better, and that they're going to be able to protect us while they're telling us that cops can't protect us, and that's not even their job. And since you can't carry a cop around, it's a lot easier to carry a gun.
Yes, it is.
But the government's not. The government really doesn't care one bit about the 50 people that were killed in that club. ownership in this country than we are with this heinous murder and of 50 people, this mass murder. He's a serial killer. And they prove that by coming out and saying this, that they want more gun laws against honest gun owners, and they want to take away our rights to own guns. And the reason why is because they fear people like me that always has a gun. They fear us.
You know what's even more fearful to them are African Americans in urban cities that conceal carry, Hispanics in urban America that conceal carry, homosexuals that decide, you know what? The Second Amendment means exactly what it says according to the Founding Fathers. When you start seeing these changes in America, all of a sudden they have lost their control. The socialists, the Democrats, are all about controlling people. And how do they control people? They do it by propagandizing tragic events and atrocious actions on other people's parts. And they've done that successfully for years. I just want to say here that the British MP, Jo Cox, who was killed, her husband made this remark earlier today to the fact that there was no one to defend her. There was no one to save her. He said she went to some of the most dangerous places in the world. The last place she should have been in danger was in her hometown. But in her hometown is one of the most stringent gun control laws in Britain. So the bottom line is these very progressives are dying by the sword that which they ban.
Well, Ken, I'm going to say this. I think it's a lie that she was killed by a gun, because Britain banned guns, and we know from, what's that idiot that's over here in our news department that is from Britain? You know what I'm talking about? Maybe the Tsarina will know the name, but he's a TV anchor, and he's from Britain. And I guess because he speaks with a British accent, we're supposed to believe everything he says. But we know because they have Piers Morgan, and he has come out and said that there are no guns in England, and that's why they only have 59 gun deaths a year. Now perhaps I'm just being glib with the wording, but you can't have 59 deaths in 1 year with no guns. You can't have 59 gun deaths anyway. They can be from knives or cricket bats or whatever. And Britain leads the world in gun death or in knife deaths. I can't say that word. Knife deaths, stabbings.
Yeah. Stabbings.
They lead the world in stabbings. And that's because they can't have guns. They all went out and got knives, and they all carry cricket bats and stuff. It's only a valid argument by morons.
Yeah.
And they glom onto this because it sounds good and it fits their template, their paradigm, and if they don't have to challenge it, then they're allowed to stay at home in their mom's basement and play video games and not worry about how the real world is. But everywhere you look, Detroit, Chicago, any place in California, New York City, Orlando, you look at all these places, and what's the one thing that they got in common? Well, they're all under Democrat control. They've all been under Democrat control for decades, and they all have stringent gun laws. They also have another statistic that's interesting, is that they lead the world in gun deaths.
Yes.
If you took New York City and Chicago out of the mix, and Detroit, we're like the number 3 nation. Even with all this in America, in the world, America's like only number 3 in gun deaths. But if you take out Detroit, New York City, and Chicago, then we're in like the bottom 8 of the world in gun deaths. So these Democrat-controlled cities with the most draconian gun laws of all are the places all the gun deaths are occurring. And they're not being done by law-abiding people. They're being done by thugs and criminals. But that's not what gun violence is in America. You don't define gun violence in America by a bad guy using a gun to take someone's life, liberty, or property. Gun violence in America is someone like me who has a gun to protect life, liberty, and property. And that is what they mean when they say end gun violence.
Exactly. You know what? The amazing thing about socialists is that they can stare themselves in the mirror and blame Republicans for the image. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to New Day Black and Red live from the nation's capital, and Fort Worth, which is a neighbor of actually the safest city in America, Plano, Texas, which has the fewest murders in the country. And I'm quite certain everyone in Plano, Texas comes out of the womb with a gun, not just waiting to be handed one. So self-defense is a marketable and achieving implementation of the founding fathers. When we get back, we're going to talk about coexisting with evil and some of the other events that have been happening around the world with our great friend. And people might think that we rehearse this. No, this is all live, people. My very good friend, Dr. Michael Jones, who is the underground professor. You can find him at undergroundprofessor.us. And the exceptional one, Kim McClinton at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. We thank Doc, White Mamba, Dave, and Mary Brockman, my bouncer, for being in the chat room at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. And Dragon, we thank you for listening at undergroundprofessor.us. Listen, we'll be right back right after a few of these irritating commercials that the professor has advised me not to play.
Yeah.
From coast to coast, there is one bank focused on building a better future. One bank with programs you can trust to help boost your economic picture. One United Bank, with rates better than the national average, no hidden fees, and even cashback debit cards. You'll feel the boost in your budget. One United Bank, the premier bank for urban communities in Boston, Miami, and Los Angeles. Visit us at oneunited.com or call 877-1UNITED today. Member FDIC.
Now, Brownells, we know you may have only one shot to harvest that trophy, so we have thousands of accessories and replacement parts to improve your chances. We know how much you love to shoot, so our gunsmiths articles and videos will help you do more and get more out of your guns. We also value your hard work and money. That's why only Brownells backs up everything we sell with a 100% unconditional lifetime guarantee. Brownells, the world's largest supplier of firearm accessories and gunsmithing tools.
At LawDepot.com, we decided to compare one of our easy-to-use online legal contracts against one prepared by a private lawyer. Sort of a lawyer taste test. We wanted to show how you could save hundreds of dollars on quality legal products, from wills to business startup packages. Unfortunately, the consultants misunderstood what we meant by taste test.
Needs more sauce.
Objection!
Overruled.
LawDepot.com. Trusted do-it-yourself legal.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. You didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying half was stupid.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
I didn't like you for messing up my all about me kind of attitude. I almost lost my mind. You got me thinking things didn't want to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to New Day, Black and Red. What a beautiful voice. Isla Brown, Ayla Brown, got a great song, Let Love In. You're listening tonight with the incredible Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor,
Yes.
who is famously in love with Isla Brown. In fact, has her stuff all over his wall, all the posters and everything else. Incredible to behold. I'm the exceptional one. I don't have any posters by Isla Brown. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh. that Mrs. Big made you take it down? Oh, you're putting it on the ceiling over the bed would probably not be a good idea.
That was not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. Isla Brown, people, definitely get her album. Let Love In is a great song on that album. Professor,
Yes.
I want to ask you something.
Ask me anything.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I have been told that we are evil. Capitalism is evil. Constitutionalism is evil. This idea about free speech is evil. Just ask the London mayor who told the people that they could not put a sign up with a woman with a beach body or whatever, and the Islamic mayor that he is. Sharia law being implemented even before our eyes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Are we really that evil, sir?
Well, if you're using the template of Islam, then America is extremely decadent. And one of the reasons that they dislike us and use us as a scapegoat or as an enemy. You know, it's a great tool to rally yourself. If you're a militant organization and you want to rally your people, find an enemy. America has traditionally always had somebody to find as an enemy, whether it's communism or the Germans before that. You know, it's and now what is it? Now it's Muslims. Now every now and then those have actually been real threats, but still, according to Islam, we are a decadent people. I think a certain amount of decadence always comes with freedom and liberty. And, you know, and one man's decadence is another man's pleasure. So it just depends on, or maybe that's not the right way to word that. But yeah, but, you know, it's like, you know, it's like, for instance, it's like this. Let's take one of the groups that we know the government thinks is evil, and that would be the Baptists.
Yeah.
Especially the Southern Baptists, right?
Yeah.
Well, they think drinking alcohol is a sin. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And so they think that Jesus was a sinner because his first miracle was making foot washing water into the best wine ever.
Exactly.
And his mom's instruction. And so there are some people that would say that this is a sin. And there are others that would say that was some damn good wine.
Yeah.
And that's the side I take. But the thing is you know, what one group of people call decadence or a sin is not what other groups call. And this is one of the reasons why we worked very hard at the creation of this country and the forming of that Constitution to teach the government through enumerated powers that wasn't something they had to solve, that belonged at the church level and at the societal level, where people lived in the community with one another. You know, the villages and townships, they can have all the, you know, the moral laws and stuff that they wanted, but it did not belong at the central government level. As you know, we have a constitutionally federated republic, and so because of that, it clearly shows that that's not a responsibility of our central government. Answer your question?
You did indeed. I want to give you this quote by George Washington. I want to get your response to George Washington.
Oh, I already know it. George Washington said it's all George Bush's fault.
That's right. Yes, he did. Bing, 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 bing. Big money round here. George Washington said, "It is one of the evils of democratical governments that the people, not always seeing and frequently misled, must often feel before they can act."
Yes.
Is that what we're going through right now, Professor? The sense that we have to feel this stuff out before we act against our real enemies?
One of the critiques against people like me is that I don't have any emotions. That I just work with logic, right? And so they say that that I don't care. That and like Churchill said, for those that are in their 20s and not a liberal, they have no heart, and those that are in their 30s and not a conservative have no brain. And there's something to that. And this is something about progressivism, statism, socialism, communism, liberalism, whatever you want to call those things to the left of the Constitution. They're a multiple politics, and they play on your emotions. Now, you may hear that some kid in Somalia is starving, and you think, oh, that's just terrible. But if you're sitting there at home and you're watching TV and a commercial intrudes into your life and it's some kind of expose about all these rail-thin Haitians running around eating dirt to try and fill their stomach up, then that affects us because we've seen it, right?
Yeah.
The Vietnam War wasn't fought much differently than any other war our country's been in, but they could see it on TV, and it affected Americans emotionally. The Nixon debate with JFK, everybody that listened to the debate said Nixon won. Everybody that watched the debate said JFK won. And the reason for that is because we watched it, and because we watched it, we were able to emote. And so the left is very keen on that, and the right is a severe dearth of knowledge on how to use this in our own favor. And so what we have is politics that requires energy to feed the government in order to have the government go against the Constitution. And so what they do is they get all these people excited, emotional, and demanding change. And those are the very things that Washington warned against. They said factions and stuff back then. That they did not mean political parties per se. So it's not a direct translation into what we have today as political parties. But they were very worried about emotions carrying the day. And so while they knew the House of Representatives would be emotional and that they were the closest body to us, we the people, the sovereigns, they created a Senate to slow that process down.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the state legislatures pick those senators. So the focus of the senators was the interest of the state they came from. And that would further put a separation and limitation on powers and emotions. And it would slow the process down so cooler heads could prevail and we would have wiser decisions because of that. And what we have seen in the last 10, 20, 50 years is a circumvention of that, especially when we started directly electing senators instead of having the state legislators do it. And that began the House fall down. Now, why did we have a constitutionally federated republic instead of a democracy? Because of emotions and because of the results that would have. And remember, in a democracy, two wolves and a sheep having a discussion on what's for lunch is a democracy. So, not always good.
Not good.
And real quick, Ken, we're doing a live radio show out of Washington, D.C. with the exceptional conservative Ken McClinton and myself, the underground professor, on Radio Black and Red. I am, of course, Dr. Jive, and you are?
I am, you are Dr. Heckle, and I'm Mr. Jive. I am sorry to...
I blew that, didn't I? I'm Dr. Heckle, and you're Mr. Jive.
That's right.
I blew that line.
I am so sorry to correct you, sir. I apologize for correcting you on the air. Please do not take it out of...
It's about time you actually had a legitimate correction. Ottoman Empire is a very interesting empire to study, but it's not what we're talking about tonight. So catch me on another show and get me to talk about it. Like Sundays is a good time, 6 to 8 p.m. Central Texas time.
Exactly.
Okay, so I got that business out of the way. So anyway, its emotions are very dangerous, Ken, and that's one of the reasons why the government was designed to try and choke that back, because we are emotional creatures. And if we see things, we're more affected. If you hear things several times, you're more affected. And that's what optics is all about. And this is why the president's been out the things he's done to come after our gun rights. And let me ask you this. I'm having a hard time with this myself. A gay Muslim becomes a self-hating Muslim because his religion teaches him that he is going to go to hell because of himself being gay, and that you should kill gay people. So he goes and commits suicide in a gay bar and takes as many gay people with him as he can. And somehow, the argument is that someone like me that was sitting at home with my 9mm on my hip was violating the constitutional rights of all the homosexuals in the club, and that their right to be homosexual was violated. And I don't see that. This isn't about homosexuality at all.
No.
Other than the fact as it relates to Islam and Sharia law and the Hadith and the Siddhs and all the other crap in the Quran. And so the simple thing is we don't need to be debating homosexuality. That's none of the Islam's damn business on America, right?
Yeah.
If they don't want it in their country, they want to throw them off the roofs, have a nut. It's your country. But in America, we have a constitutional right to life.
Yes.
And that's what's being violated. We have a right to associate in the Fourth Amendment. And that was being violated at that club. Not the right to be homosexual, which clearly there is no right to be homosexual.
Yeah.
There's not even a right to be heterosexual if you really want to think about it. That's just the way most of nature is.
Yes.
But we have a right in our own professional lives and our personal lives to do what we want to do. And it's not government's business to get involved in that. And you notice that the party that always is claiming Republicans are trying to get into the bedroom
Yes.
is the party that's associated with the Muslims that want to get into your bedroom when it comes to homosexuality.
Exactly. It seems that the Democrat Socialist Party is filled with individuals who are betwixt and between themselves.
Oh, sure.
Unsteady.
That's why it's a coalition.
Yeah.
The Democrat Party isn't a monolithic thought process. It's a bunch of coalitions that vie for power. And as their issue comes before a situation like this, then all of a sudden now it's that community who's getting all the attention and has power. And it's like Parliament over in England. You know, when the votes change, when the feelings change, it all gets moved around. And Dragon over in my Periscope is saying that it relates because we're scared. You see, and this is what I was trying to get at on my show, is that I am in solidarity with the people at that dance club, not because they were homosexual, but because they were Americans, damn it, and we're human beings. And you have a reasonable right to expect to be able to go out and dance and have a good time and not be in fear of your life. And if our government is going to allow us to be in fear of our life so they can score political points or get us to give up more rights in order to exchange it for some false security, then damn it, we need to reorganize government. And it may be time for a revolution. It's certainly time to arrest this man that calls himself the President of the United States for being a traitor to the Constitution and a traitor to the country. And it bothers me that we want to talk about gun rights or homosexual rights when we should be just simply talking about human rights as a human being. And we have a certain level of dignity we all deserve. And it should not matter if they were homosexual. It should not matter if they were Baptist. It should not matter if they were black. It should not matter a hill of beans on any of those. What mattered was that they were human beings out with their family and friends, having a good time, and their ability to pursue happiness was shut down by a Sharia-loving man who follows a religion that was created by a goat-humping pedophile. And somehow that's respectable. But none of this is. And I don't buy that. And it's time that we do something about this. And it's time, as Thomas Jefferson is often misquoted as saying, or they take the quotes out of context, but the tree of liberty's roots need to be refreshed from time to time by the blood of patriots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's plenty of blood out there. Let's pour it on the tree of liberty. Let's try freedom and liberty again. Because if we do that, yes, it's me, I am Santa. If we renew the tree of liberty's roots with the blood of patriots, we're going happier life. And we're going to be able to I got sidetracked myself. I can't think of what brilliant thing I was going to say. But the simple fact is freedom and liberty works every time it's tried.
Exactly.
And one of our problems is, as I've asked you before and others, to tell me one thing government doesn't control, tax, or regulate. One thing is all I ask, that government does not control, tax, or regulate. And since they do everything, they're trying to be everything to everybody, and we all know what Aesop and what Dr. Seuss think about that. Anybody who tries to be everything to everybody is a failure.
Yeah.
And they're certainly a failure to themselves. And our government has become a self-fulfilling failure because it is not designed, it is not capable, it is not structured, and it is certainly not chartered or enumerated to do these things. And because of that, it is a failure. And we are sitting around, and the very same people who think that I should not have a gun to protect myself and that only cops should have guns are the very same people that are telling me cops should not have guns because all they do is racist and hateful things, and they can't be trusted. So which is it?
It seems that the emotions of the grief, the horror of the atrocity has beget those the advantage on the left to propagandize and to actually bring into action their political agenda, which I believe overall is very evil. Very evil because you speak of the fact that there is a right to human dignity, which is natural. It is a natural right. It is not something that is given by man. It is something that is supposed to be honored by man. And so when a man dies, no matter what he believes in, no matter who he fell in love with, when a man dies, there should be a sense of dignity given to him because of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It doesn't mean that because we pursue happiness that we will achieve it, or even if we will get it right. It simply means that every man has an opportunity to know what love and freedom are all about. Now, I am not condoning the behavior, and nor do I encourage individuals to pursue that type of unhappiness as a sense of happiness. But nonetheless, there is that natural right of men to choose and to have the freedom and liberty of the choice. But if this left group agrees with that right now, that means that some issues like self-defense needs to be not heckled, but endued amongst all men. Instead of us complaining that 49 people died because of at the hand of one man, we should be saying, what is it that the one man did to make the 49 die so that we don't do that ever again? And that's leaving our people defenseless against those who are rogues. The other portion of this, I just want to say very quickly, and Dave is doing a great job in there, and Mamba as well as Mary in the chat roll with their conversations, is that those on the right become emotional because they are embarrassed by what they believe, and they don't believe in what they believe. And so that's how you get remember Lion Ted, that's how you get a man who's already negotiating away the Bill of Rights before he even gets to the podium at the Republican National Convention. I think we should be in awe of the fact that there are men and women out there who are really ready to fight for our liberties and our freedoms, and we need to be prepared for the time in which both the left and the right turn their back on justice and truth.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna derail the show again.
Uh-oh.
By saying something to you, and that is on Sunday's show, we're going to play Ted Cruz's speech today to the House of Representatives, or to the Senate rather. And I'm going to ask you, not you personally, but everybody, why didn't we nominate this man to be our presidential nominee? Because he got it exactly right. And so we're going to play that. And then we're going to play or read some of Trump's statements on the issue. But as I was saying earlier, Trump is over in Dallas right now, giving a rally, not a fundraiser, a rally. Now, he's the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. Is that correct?
You are correct, sir.
Okay. So after you are the presumptive nominee, meaning you have enough delegates to be the nominee for the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. This goes for both parties. Hillary and Trump are both the heir presumptives to that title because of their delegate votes, but they still have to get those actual votes done by the delegates at their respective conventions, okay? So, but in history, go back and look at all the last elections every 4 years for president, and after the person secures a nomination as the party's representative for president, I hope I'm not confusing everybody, but when they when they secure the nomination, then they switch from rallies and stump speeches to fundraising speeches and start having $500, $1,000 plate dinners and stuff to raise money for the fight against the other political party for the race for president. The whole focus changes, and instead of attacking Republicans or Democrats, each nominee then attacks the other party's nominee. So instead of attacking Ted Cruz still, you would think Trump would start attacking Hillary and Hillary would start attacking Trump instead of Bernie. But what do we see right now? We still see that Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz are getting attacked by their own party and by their own nominee.
Yeah.
Also, instead of doing a fundraiser, we have a rally by Trump. And I'm trying to figure out why are we doing this. So here's my speculation then. And that is one of two things. Either Agador was right, and Trump is trying, hello, Ukraine, Trump is trying to sabotage his own election so that Hillary can win. But he just wants to make it look good. And so he's doing things that a competent campaign manager would advise against. Or there's something going on with Ted Cruz et al. That is going to happen at our convention, and Trump felt the need to come to Texas, which perhaps is one of the reddest states in America, and secure some more support by having rallies in Texas. Now, I wonder, why does the Trump campaign feel they need to shore up Texas? I mean, pretty much Texas will vote for Trump at the convention because that's what the delegates have said to do. And so why is he here? Why isn't it a fundraiser? Why isn't it an attack Hillary? And I think that there is something going on with delegates in the Republican Party at the convention, and that there may be a coup going on. And I don't know how I feel about that yet. I'm not excited about Trump, but I'm really not excited about the GOP shanghaiing our process.
Yeah.
And but I just wanted to bring this up so that people can start thinking about it and keep an eye on this again.
No,
90 seconds. Yes.
We want to pick this up in the second half of our program, New Day Black and Red. You're listening to Dr. Michael Jones, the Underground Professor. You can find him at undergroundprofessor.us. I am the Exceptional One from the exceptionalconservativeshow.com, Ken McClinton. Glad to have you with us. Remember, people, rally means a mass meeting to stir enthusiasm. There is a problem when you are in the reddest state of the union and you still have to stir people's enthusiasm about you. We'll be right back with more of the best New Day Black and Red with none other than Dr. Michael Jones.
Yay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about ebooks? Maybe you've never read an ebook before, but you're considering giving it a try. Or maybe you've been reluctant to try ebooks because you don't want to buy another expensive electronic device. Or maybe you already enjoy ebooks, but you haven't been able to find titles from your favorite Christian authors. Whatever your situation, ChristianBook.com has the solution. Your trusted source for print books for over 30 years now offers ebooks. Our always free CBD reader allows you to read on the devices you already own without spending money on a new device. Thousands of Christian ebooks at ChristianBook.com, means you can shop with confidence and choose from the titles you want. Plus, we are adding new titles all the time. Browse our huge selection of low-priced Christian ebooks the same way you would printed books, only now you can go from shopping to reading in seconds. Simply select the ebook you wish to purchase, confirm your account information, and start reading. Free samples of every ebook are available, so you can preview the book first, before you buy it. Plus, there's no lengthy app downloads and updates. Accessing the CBD Reader is as easy as going to cbdreader.christianbook.com and bookmarking the page. The CBD Reader holds your ebooks and bookmarks for you, no matter what device you're on. So, you can take your entire ebook library wherever you go and pick up right where you left off. Our customizable options make it possible to read your ebooks in different font sizes and styles. Want a large print version? You've got it in seconds with a simple click of the mouse. Already own a dedicated e-reader? Download your ebooks to your computer from your christianbook.com account and transfer them to your device. Try ebooks at christianbook.com and start reading your favorite books in seconds. Easy, economical, everywhere you want to read. Welcome to christianbook.com ebooks.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find your entry point to ebooks at christianbooks.com just by going to the exceptionalconservativeshow.com, either the broadcast page or our front page, our home page. Yes, you can click on and go directly and buy your goods at an established discount. We'll be right back right after this Freedom Fest message.
Well, welcome to Freedom Fest 2015. I think this is the best Freedom Fest we've ever put together.
Freedom Fest is truly international. There's people from all over the world that come to Freedom Fest, not just to talk, but also to participate in dialogue, participate in the panels, to participate in the audience.
So hold your breath, lock your seatbelts. I hope you're at your Wheaties today.
We are enslaved by government mandates. What light bulb you can buy, what car you can drive, how you heat and cool your home, to what health insurance.
Europe actually has allowed itself to be held hostage of this entire Greek situation.
They have the courage to debate. You have debates on foreign policy, on taxes, on what's going on in the world, on how to invest and how to run your own life.
He used an example of restaurants. Don't open a restaurant because it's so competitive you'll never make any money. Really? I mean, been to Chipotle lately?
How many believe that Peter Thiel won the argument competition is overrated in America? And how many favor John Mackey's response?
So here's the moment many of you have been waiting for, myself included, and I think it's the reason why this room is completely packed all the way to the back as far as I can see.
I think I worked about 8 years to put together this debate.
I have to say, it's really kind of depressing to see people holding up the Reagan story, which is so obviously different if you pay any attention to the story, as that's the best argument, really? That's the best argument?
The middle class and the poor, the people you say you care most about, are the people who've been hurt the most by these policies because they've had no income growth at all.
Thank you. They already left 2 waters for me. I'll probably only need 1. So I appreciate it.
In America today, higher education is controlled by a cartel. And they say, oh, let's take out a loan and pay for this. And no one bothers to tell them that the market for Greek philosophers has been tight for 2,000 years.
So in terms of its 2 major policy objectives, stable prices and a stable economy, the Fed has clearly failed.
And if the Federal Reserve actually did the right thing, the market would crash.
Every country in the world has a lower corporate tax rate than us. Can we fix that?
This, in my view, is the premier libertarian event in the country.
You probably meet the largest cross-section of philosophically based groups of any conference anywhere in the world.
Some of the smartest people in our country come together here to discuss the ideas, the challenges. This is an engaged group of individuals.
This is all about the mind. It's not about how fancy you are.
Feisty discussions, interesting people to meet.
I love it. This is my first time doing anything like this. It's not going to be my last.
It's the only place you get this many people who agree with me. Nobody, I live in New York. Nobody agrees with me.
You know, war is not the health of the state. War is the death of liberty and freedom. And that's a mentality that is particularly strong in the Republican Party, but it's also strong in the Democratic Party.
I want government to be this small. I want individuals to be this big.
We are people when we are at our greatest that we lead by example. We don't jam it down anybody's throat. We don't force them to live our way. We don't nation build.
Very interesting. There's a lot of variety of stuff. Really.
Hear ye, hear ye. Freedom Fest Court is now in session.
We are gathered here in this great sovereign state of Nevada to decide the fate of the country's central bank, the Federal Reserve.
Please place your hand on this edition of Forbes 400 Richest.
There was a bubble in many markets, and that's simply mathematically impossible without the Fed creating the money to make it happen.
The Fed is guilty, 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 guilty. Court is now adjourned. God bless America, and may you always ride on the eagle of freedom. Hallelujah, and good night.
I'm Joanne Skousen. I'm the founding director of the Anthem Film Festival. And we are in our 5th year. We started in a little room on the 26th floor at Bally's, and now we've grown to huge numbers. In fact, we have a fabulous lineup of shorts.
A police officer can wear a body camera, but you as a citizen may not have access to that footage.
Live from Las Vegas.
We recognize that Freedom Fest is a big tent.
Well, I happen to like Rand Paul. I really do. By the way, in some cases, they'll build a new hospital for $1.5 billion. You could build 7 hospitals, 10 hospitals for that if you knew what you were doing.
We had almost 300 speakers.
Without a doubt, our most successful Freedom Fest ever.
And I just adore the experience. It's like a saturation of the senses, a saturation of the mind. I've learned so much. I come home with way too many books. I adore Freedom Fest. I'm definitely coming back again next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just letting you know right now where you need to be is at Freedom Fest in Vegas, and that's going to be in just about 3 weeks. Yes, in about 3 weeks. The professor and I will be on Radio Row. Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
I am so looking forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, I've already started packing.
I'm going to get there sooner or later. I'm going to pack them. Actually, my wife packs for me. I have to wear what my wife does.
Well, she also wears the pants in that family, so I guess so.
As long as they're not mine, it's okay. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Right. It's New Day Black and Red live from Washington, D.C. and Fort Worth, Texas. Yes, we're simulcasting at one point on Blog Talk Radio. Certainly on Ustream, Livestream, Sackheads Radio, and also you'll hear us on High Plains Pundit Media. And at 2 o'clock this morning, you will hear us on Internet Conservative Radio Network, which the name will be changing on July 4th. Stay tuned to hear what that new name will be in the coming weeks. I assure you that it's going to be a great, great gifting to all of us. If you are going to Freedom Fest, please inbox both the professor and I at Facebook. We would love to see you there. We would love to greet you, meet you, and you can sit on Santa's lap if you want to. Am I correct, sir?
Yeah, $20. That's a non-seasonal adjustment fee.
Oh, but if you happen to be shapely and very pretty, is there a discount for that?
Oh, I'll pay you $20.
Welcome to Vegas, baby. Welcome to Vegas.
Capitalism, baby. I was just asked if I believe in alchemy. I'm curious to what that may mean, because, do I believe that I can turn lead into gold? No, not with the science that we have today. Maybe in the future, but alchemy was so much more than that, wasn't it, Ken?
It was. It was like a religion. It was like a cult.
It was like what?
It was like a cult. The alchemists were like cults. They were like priests.
Yeah.
And
also doctors. They did a lot of healing and stuff too.
Yeah. It was the white man's version of witch doctoring. So
yeah. And I have a hard enough time with Obamacare without trying to find the right witch doctor.
It's kind of good. Some of them don't accept the HMO or the PPO, so you got to be careful.
Well, I filed my paperwork, and the administration sent back a denial to my claim for medical services because the doctor wore the wrong bone in his nose.
We got news from Mamba in our chat room that Periscope is still up. The professor is still live on Periscope. Am I correct, sir?
Yeah, Periscope's up. They're still recording on Blog Talk, so you have to call in to hear it. You know, if you were in when it started, now it's in archives, but I've still got that recording going for archives. But we're on Periscope still. And Ken, we got a lot of new listeners who are asking what are we talking about. So why don't you give us a rundown on what we're doing
most certainly.
Do that, Dragon, and then and let's catch up on bring you and your wife to come over and meet me at Blue Bonnet on Monday morning at 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. for breakfast.
All right.
Give us a rundown here, Ken.
You know, that's normally the time you give me for breakfast, 9 p.m., and you're never there.
I tell you 9 because I show up at 8, so I have a chance to eat.
Tonight, my friends, are Americans ready to coexist with evil? Now that all of the Bill of Rights are negotiable under the presumptive GOP presidential nominee, are Americans ready to surrender the Constitution politically and spiritually? A new day, black and red, with the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, and the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. We are talking about evil tonight. We spent a little bit earlier talking about the current events of Orlando, and I want you all to know that all Gator lives matter. Just want to let you know that. And quite frankly...
I'm sorry, but they want to be known as Gator Americans.
Gator!
And we should respect their life choices.
We should name them Ish and Mish. We can't call them he and she anymore.
The real bad thing is that these crocodiles started eating during Ramadan, and they should have waited until after 6.
Well, he did. It was 9. Come on.
Oh, was it? Oh, it was 9.
It was.
I forgot the time zone change. That's right. You're right.
What's an ignorant gator to do?
Exactly. Of course, my radio show. I've got the Exceptional Conservative out of Washington, D.C., and we do a show every Thursday called Radio Black and Red.
New day.
To, 10 p.m. Central, God's time, and all the other times really don't matter.
Ooh.
And yeah, because you live up in the same state that gave us the Redskins and Obama, so don't talk to me about time zone. And so, it's more important that we know that Obama has done with Orlando. He is now over at Yosemite and Carlsbad Caverns.
There you go.
Yeah, he's probably fundraising over there doing that. So
with an echo.
And the British Empire's gone. The Greenwich Mean Time, Meridian Time is gone. Who cares? But ever since Churchill, they gave it up. So now it's up to us. So anyway, I have no idea what Radio on Black and Red means. Ken made that up.
New day. It's new day, black and red. New day, black and red. There we go. And new day, black and red.
By the way, Ken, I heard on one of your shows you said that we're not promised tomorrow, but I have to argue because it's tomorrow in Australia already. So in effect, they kind of are promised tomorrow.
Well, if you look at it that way, I mean, we're all in tomorrow.
Well, no, not all of us.
Well, yes, we are. All of us. If someone else is already there and we assimilate ourselves to them, then, of course, we're all in tomorrow. So tomorrow thus must be promised.
Well, sure. So we are promised tomorrow.
So, I'm just agreeing with you, Professor. I'm using your logic to agree with you.
I see. I know that's right.
And every man that agrees with you is just as brilliant as you. Do I get any brownie points?
I mean, again, you come from the city that gave us the train to nowhere.
I took the professor on a trip down 8th Street in Washington, D.C., all of about 5 blocks. That's exactly where the electric train above ground goes. It goes 5 blocks from about Union Station to about 5 blocks into 8th Street. Literally, it is a train to nowhere. $250 million to spend on a train that goes all of about 5 blocks. That, my friends, is what Democrats do because they emotionally encourage you to do dastardly things, evil things, for the sake of whatever the noble intention or idea is. I want to go to that real quick, a definition of evil. Of course, a lot of people refer to it as bad, vicious, evil, or wicked. If we really go all the way back, we really look at the concept of someone actually being outside, well, not just the will of God, but the word in the way of God. It is someone who uses words in speech to make bad, to sin, to make wicked. Anything that causes injury morally or physically. And this is my contest, and the professor will speak to the constitution of it at the end of this particular show. I'll be speaking to the spiritual end of it, only because I choose to do that over the professor, even though he is a minister in his own right, a pastor in his own right.
I notice you never say Reverend Doctor. It's always Doctor.
Because you're not black.
Well, believe it or not, some white people are priests and stuff, but all black people are.
Yes, sir.
Even the women in the Hallelujah row in front of the Baptist church are all preachers.
They all preach.
Every one of them.
And that's why when you go into the hospital and they introduce you to the doctor, at least culturally, when they introduce me to the doctor, I say Reverend. So
yeah, sure. And it's just, I think it's just so you can take the religious thing away from me. And you really should use my entire title, which is Lord Reverend Doctor.
Yes, sir.
Because I am the Lord Lamont, and got my knighthood over in England. So I think that's important too. Yes.
Okay, let me hold up. I got my pad here. My pen's not writing as good.
So his magnificent defender of the faith.
How do you spell?
Lord,
how do you spell his?
Dr. Michael. Huh?
How do you spell his?
With a Z. It's bubonics. It doesn't matter how you spell it. It matters how you feel about how you spell it.
I feel good at it.
2 plus 2 equals R.
That's what I'm saying, man. 2 plus 2?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That's right. And if you come up with that, then I'm going to tell you that you probably missed the equation because you forgot to carry the 9.
I took my shoes off. I got it right. But, Professor, in a sense, socialism, in a sense, I believe is evil because it creates injuries morally and physically. I really believe, and earlier tonight, Senator John McCain from Arizona, who is probably well behind Dr. Kelly Ward in Arizona right now, and this is why he makes the remark, blames the President of the United States for what happened in Orlando. Evil persists where people allow bad things to happen. Am I correct, sir?
Yeah, that's Edmund Burke.
I thought it was mine.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, he probably plagiarized you. he was a Brit. It's like they take all of our good ideas.
But constitutionally, can you speak to the fact that evil can be done when people forget that we're in a republic rather than a democracy, and that a democracy is built on emotion and not logic?
Oh, sure. The founding fathers were fearful of a democracy, weren't they? They called it mob rule, and they were right, And a lot of evil can take place in there. I mean, look, if you look at the fall of all the large republics, like Rome, for instance, and it comes from internal rot, usually not external. I mean, the Romans had the barbarians, of course, but they would have been okay had they not rotted from inside. And they forgot who they were as a people. They forgot their laws, and they quit being a republic, and they became an empire, and then they became something else, and we all like the word democracy for some reason, as if it's more noble than a republic. But, Greece didn't last very long doing it, and it was harder than hell for them to accomplish, and it's very convoluted and only worked in very small groups. The larger they got, the harder it was to well. The truth is that we have people in this country that, from the Fabian socialists, which came from Europe, they started pushing the concept of using the word democracy in order to change the Overton window of how we see our own government, and so they could repackage it for us. And the reason for this is that if they call it a democracy, then we'll forget that it's a republic and that there's a reason for those words. And all words have meanings, and they're very important. And our government, the type of government we have, is a constitutionally federated republic. And because we no longer even know that in this country, then the government is able to do things and take away freedoms and rights, responsibilities and privileges from us, and give them out at will to favored groups at the expense of others. And we don't even know that we've lost this. And there's so many, I'm being challenged on Periscope to touch my nose with my foot. I can't even see my foot. So, that ain't going to happen. So it's very dangerous for that. But Ronald Reagan, one of my favorite quotes of his, the 7 most dangerous words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Yep.
And in those words, in the name of government helping, what have we done? We have destroyed our country. We've destroyed our national zeitgeist. We have destroyed people's freedoms and liberties. We've destroyed our tax base. We've destroyed our economic system. We have punished capitalism as if it's evil, instead of praising it as being the only system that has ever made so many people wealthy and healthy and wise, while holding up the lesser of arguments like the sophists did in Plato's day.
Yes.
The weaker argument making it the stronger. And that's what we've got today. And it's a danger. And one of the things that is scariest, Ken, is not that government tries to take power, because that's what governments do. They try to exist tomorrow. And in order to exist, they need to continue to keep growing and growing in size, physically, economically, and politically in power. And so that's what they do. The sad thing, the scary thing, is that most of us in America don't even realize this. And we allow it to happen. We encourage it to happen. And, okay, the Democrats are the party of big government, fine. That's what they're pushing. But I'm telling you that conservatives who run around, and I mean real ones, not the fake ones like Chris Christie.
Yeah.
Or John McCain. I'm talking about real conservative constitutionalist people. If you really start talking to them, then you're going to find out that they're socialists too, because they want the government to do things, and they want it to help, and they want it to be involved in things that it has no business being involved with. And because of that, we can't even slow government's growth down. Forget cutting government. We can't even slow its growth down. And that's because most of the people when they're in government and those that are involved in putting people in government have an invested interest in growing government. I'm being told I'm full of crap. That's a very logical argument.
It's true.
And that I'm full of crap. I accept.
No, not that part.
And I concede mine as being fallacious and not based on any history or facts. I'm devastated. My self-esteem is now destroyed. As a libtard, you probably should have kept my feelings in
Exactly.
thoughts and realize that now my self-esteem is destroyed and I won't be able to go on. I'm going to go on welfare.
Well, the good thing about that libtard is that he will be able to make you equal to him and get you into the motor voter role.
Yes. Well, Ken, I'm full of crap because this guy is using the argument. He says he's a conservative and doesn't want government to do anything for him. Well, I bet he does, but I'll accept his words as argument. But see, this is one of those tricks that people at Harvard and Yale use, leftists use a lot. What they do is they use this all or nothing thing. Like for instance, I'm against abortion.
Yeah.
And so what they'll do is they'll use the argument that I'm against abortions and make the argument that somehow I'm against women's rights because I'm against abortion. And so they extrapolate from that an all theory. And what they do is they try to make it something that it's not. And I can give you example, but I shouldn't have to give you example of conservatives that want government to do things. I can point out McConnell. I can point out Speaker Ryan. I can point out John McCain. I can point out almost any politician of the Republican Party and show you how much pork they brought back. I'm neither conservative or liberal. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution. I am a Jeffersonian radical. The term conservative means nothing, Ken, when Chris Christie and Ronald Reagan are both conservatives.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Constitution tells you what the government's job is. It enumerates. And some of the things that it's supposed to do are defend us from enemies of our country. They're supposed to protect us from, like, terror and criminals, foreign and domestic. They're supposed to provide postal roads and a mail service because that's in the Constitution. That's something the government's actually supposed to do. A military is something the government should do. But they should not be determining whether or not I can have a gun, especially since the Second Amendment says that they can. They should not be giving money to communities that have natural disasters. Noah Webster himself countered that argument. And so there's a lot of things that we have government do for us, and it's not their responsibility. And but you know, it's painful. You remember, Ken, I was talking about how if we actually reactivated the 10th Amendment and gave states back their authority and sovereignty, how that would collapse our political system because no one could do it, and the states are the last of the group of people who would ever want the 10th Amendment to be re-effected because they can't afford to do it. And it's a lot easier to blame the central government and then take their money and distribute it to winners and losers in their states than it is to have to tell the people of the state that they can't afford to raise our taxes to pay for it. For instance, if we were to get rid of the Department of Education, right? Now, the Republicans are always saying, let's get rid of that. Everybody except Rick Perry, who couldn't remember that was one of the things he wanted to get rid of, and cost him an election. But we want to get rid of the Department of Education. Okay, so we get rid of it. And we also write in there in the law that the central government must reduce the amount of taxes it brings into the country to the Treasury by the amount that we have been spending on the Department of Education. Okay, and I'm just talking about one as an example.
Yeah.
So, yes, and that's right, Greg. And if I didn't poop, I would be full of crap. But I take probiotics. So we get rid of the Department of Education. We refund the money that the government was taking in to pay for the Department of Education. And now the states have to pay for their own education. Well, what are they going to do now that they're not getting checks from the central government in the forms of billions of dollars to pay for education? Well, they're going to have to come to us as Texans or Oklahomans or people, well, Washington, D.C., you guys don't even bother going to your schools. They're more like penitentiaries. So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, if you're in a normal American state, then your state government's going to have to come to you and say, we're going to have to raise your taxes in order to pay for all this education that we're no longer getting money from the central government. And now you're going to go, oh, wait a minute. My property taxes are already through the roof. How are you going to raise my taxes? I can't even afford to live in my house now. And they're going to say, well, we got to do something to pay for it because this is what we expect. And there is a problem with us spending $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 per kid in public schools. And the figure may be low because I may be remembering old data.
No, in the district,
$12,000 a year.
In the District of Columbia, we spend $33,000 a year per pupil.
Okay, that's what the average income of this country is, $30,000 a year, right? $35,000.
Yeah.
So just to educate one kid in Washington D.C. is the same as paying a salary of a normal person for a year. So my question is this. Why is it that you could take that kid out of that public school where they're going to only learn how to recycle, wear condoms, fornicate, and have high self-esteem, and turn around and send them to a public school or a private school for $6,000 or $7,000, $8,000 a year and get a crackerjack education which is designed to get them into college? I forget what they call that now.
Professor, in listening to you prescribe what would happen in a free market system, the states would have to adjust. If they went back and repealed the 17th Amendment, if we went back and strengthened the 10th Amendment, in a free market system, the states would recognize the fact that they will not receive the monies from, in your particular case, Texans won't receive money from Floridans or from Californians. They would have to survive off their own money. What they would do is make adjustments and make fiscal decisions at the local level for the betterment of their children and their future, which would cost them far less than being dependent on a central government system that seeks to exploit the taxpayer at all costs and keep most of that money here in Washington, D.C., which allows us to pay $33,000 a year for each pupil being taught versus $7,000 in Texas.
Back right there, Ken, that I need to cut in real quick and tell you. So you use Texas as an example, but you see Texas is a net exporter of taxes.
Yes.
In Texas, we have all the jobs, right? So we're the ones paying all the taxes. And so we're sending it out to all the other states. And so places like Washington, D.C., which is the richest county in America, but they are a net taker of taxes.
Yes.
Not just because the treasury's there and stuff, but they get a lot of taxes because they're spending it on there. And the tax base of Washington, D.C. is minimal by comparison. You know, like Ward 7 and 8, just face it, they're not paying the lion's share of taxes in that district. So that money comes from somewhere else, and it comes from places like Texas. Texas sends more money out of the state than it gets into the state. And so when the central government threatens us to cut off funds and stuff, we're like, okay, well, guess what? We'll do it too. You cut off the funds coming in, we'll cut off the funds going out, and we'll see who cries mercy first. Because Texas sends more money out of the state in the form of taxes than it gets in the form of largesse. But there are other states that are net takers in this. And they're the ones that are really going to hurt. And they'll have to come up with marketplace results.
Exactly.
And answers instead of government-led answers. And the right thing would be is just to shut down all government-controlled schools at any level and privatize them all. Let them all, become charter schools or private schools and just get out of the education business. And it's not like we're losing anything. As a college professor, I don't get students that are ready for basic level government or history classes. I have to teach them what they should have learned in high school for the first 2 years of college, just to get them ready so that they can take adult classes the last 2 years of college, meaning half of their college career is nothing but a high school refresher.
Yes.
Right, and so that's a waste of money. And so when you're spending $35,000 a year as a student in public in student loans to go to college, keep in mind that about $70,000 of that in student loan money was spent paying to learn what you should have learned in high school. So we're not disservicing students by shutting down public schools. There was a noble idea about public schooling. Adams, Jefferson, Washington, they all set aside money and lands of their own to create public schools. When we started, the Northwest Land Ordinance was created. It required that each city be laid out in a particular way. Every territory had to be laid out. And in each city, there had to be a church and then a school built in that order.
Yeah.
As soon as you got the church built, then you went and you built the school, and then you could build government buildings and stuff. And they laid it out how much you had to do and stuff. And so that was all great. That was a noble idea. But why did Adams and those guys want public schooling? Well, they wanted it, believe it or not, to teach Americans about their government. Now, today, we get the same thing. Our schools teach our kids about our government. But what they do is they teach them that our government is good and healthy, and that they need to turn to the government for answers, and that the government should tell them how to do everything in their lives. But the Founding Fathers wanted a government to teach about liberty and freedom. Today, most people can't even tell you there's a difference between the words. They think they mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Founding Fathers knew that they meant something different. And so they wanted schools to teach about freedom. They wanted schools to teach about liberty. They wanted schools to teach them about how the Constitution was and the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. And they wanted students to understand these things so they knew when government was screwing it up, when they were mucking around with their freedoms and liberties, and to tell them, no, stop. And if you don't know what your rights are, if you don't know where they come from, if you don't know the restrictions on government sovereignty from us, the sovereigns, then how do you tell them no?
Exactly.
How do you hire and elect people that will do these jobs? And this is why they've got these government schools. So we won't lose anything, and no students will be any stupider than they are now after graduating from a public school.
Exactly.
And I graduated from a public school, but it's not the same from 1981 to today.
Yeah, and you know, one of the more favorable positions on this, and this is why fiscal libertarians should just jump on board with this particular idea of shutting down the Department of Education, centralized education in this country, is simply the matter of the money at this particular juncture. You either pay a whole lot to indoctrinate children, or you pay very little to classically educate them. Which will do better for your country, classical education or indoctrination? Where little Johnny graduates from school and learns that he can put a rubber on a eggplant.
Eggplant? I think you're a racist bastard.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening.
To make all the white guys feel intimidated.
I'm sorry, I meant carrot. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to New Day Black and Red, and we're being broadcast live on SHR. It is simulcast out of Fort Worth and Washington, D.C., the Underground Professor out in Fort Worth, and the exceptional one here in Washington, D.C. I want to go to a quick point because then it makes our show complete, and that's the whole idea of coexistence.
Before you say that, let me answer your question you asked.
Okay.
Which would be better? It depends on what results you want. If you want automatons to vote for the party of big government, then public schools, the way they are, is what you want. But if you want people to be self-reliant and rugged individualism like the Founding Fathers were, then, of course, public schools today, as we know them, are not the correct solution. And it's a disservice to freedom-loving people to have them. But again, you have to, when you do these things, you have to ask, what are the results you're looking for? Because what we have now, there's a reason why we have what we have now. And that's because it served a need. And that need was to dumb down America so that they would continue voting for more people to go back into government to do more of that stuff to them. Exactly. And so that's very scary to me, Ken.
You know, Lenin wanted socialism because he knew it was the fastest avenue to communism. We are being told by our president and by the ivory tower and those who happen to indoctrinate our children in the classrooms of America today that we can coexist with variant ideologies that seek to destroy us. That communism that seeks to destroy capitalism can coexist. That Mohammedanism can coexist with Christianity and Judaism. Sharia law can coexist with the Constitution. Professor, is it our responsibility as a federated constitutional republic to seek to coexist with ideologies that seek to destroy us?
Well, that's like going up to Flint, Michigan, and drinking the water because it's going to make you healthy. Yeah, it just doesn't make much sense. It's a cancer, is what it is, to freedom. I mean, there are places that this is what you want, right? You want someone to, if you're a tyrant, or you're part of that political class, or you're an aristocrat or something, then you'll want that kind of government. But that's not what America fought a war for. And that's not what they created the Constitution to protect. It wasn't to protect us from ourselves. And it wasn't for the government to do everything for us.
Yeah.
And this is what's sad with me, Ken, is I don't know how we got there as a country. I don't know why we would ever have allowed it. And I mean, I can go back and show you historically how it happened, and I can show you examples and stuff, but I'm talking about someone whose expertise is on the revolution in this country. And I don't know how to justify that and what those men did for us, and women did for us, for our country, and what we have today and what we're giving to our children. You know, the one major responsibility of being free people is to make sure that you bequeath that to your progeny.
Yeah.
And we're not passing freedom on to our families. Not when we've created a system that criminals have more rights than homeowners, or freedom people, the people living their lives. We put the criminal as the higher class of citizens, and we punish people for defending themselves. We punish people for protecting their property, and we reward those who take it and steal and kill. And some people say, well, that's just crazy, that we have our prisons are overburgeoning with bad guys. Well, perhaps, but there could be an argument made for this. And if I had lots of time, I could certainly string out the logic where you can say, well, my goodness, this is right. But trust me, it is. It is right. And it's a danger to society when we have elevated the wrong elements and we push and promote the wrong things. And the easiest example for me to show is the difference between the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, and as you love to talk about, the second Bill of Rights by Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And that is very scary to me, and that makes sense to people. When you talk to people and they get upset at me when I try to explain them what rights and freedoms are, and they get upset because they think they have a right to a job. And, and you say, well, okay, well, let's look at that, a right to a job. It sounds kind of good, doesn't it, to have a right to work? But if I have a right to work, that means I can force you to hire me.
Yes.
Okay? Well, how does that work? How can I force you to hire me? If we have a right to medicine, then, okay, they say you have a right to health care. That's the whole thing arguing about Obamacare. Everybody has a right to this. We're the only industrialized country, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if I have a right to health go and see a doctor and force him to treat me, to medicine me, and not have to compensate him. Oh, Professor, that's just crazy. Of course you have to pay for it. Well, if I have to pay for it, then I don't have a right to it, do I?
Exactly.
And the people on the left say that you have a right to abortion. Of course, we all know that's made up. It was based on false testimony and lies, and it's a fabrication of our overreaching Supreme Court. But let's say they're right. You have a right to an abortion. They also say that because you have a right to an abortion, then the government has to pay for it if you can't afford one on your own. And so they forcibly take money from people like me who buy an abortion to violate my religious beliefs and abhor it. And I have to give tax money to pay for other people so they can go and kill the babies. Okay, well, if I have that right to an abortion, and we can't find that anywhere in the Constitution, then I ask you, where it says right in the Constitution that I have a right to have a gun. And if I have a right to have a gun and I can't afford a gun, then shouldn't the government have to pay for me to have a gun and pay for me to have a certain amount of bullets every month so I can, use the gun to be proficient in training? So if we have a right to an abortion and I have a right to make other taxpayers pay for it because I have that right, and we can't find that right in any of the documents by the founding, then isn't the argument even stronger that the government should pay for my guns, not try to take them from me?
It makes sense.
And so, so what we're talking about here are things that aren't rights, okay? If I have a right, my right can never violate your rights, ever. I have a right to have a gun to protect myself. I have a right to protect myself and my family, and it came from God, not government, okay? Now, nowhere in there did God say you have a right to have a gun, but government has to pay for it. Because government shouldn't be involved in it, one way or the other. Paying for it or allowing me to have it or licensing me or training me, none of that is their responsibility or their power, their right or authority. Okay? So, sure. So, but my right to have a gun can never, ever violate any of your rights. And I ask people, tell me one right that will be violated because I have a gun on my head. And the simple answer is that there are no rights that can be violated, not even made-up rights, because my gun will never, ever hurt you unless you violate one of my rights, like my right to privacy, my right to my house. If you decide that your right to my TV supersedes my right to have my TV, then you're going to find out whether or not you're allergic to lead poisoning. And then you better pray for Obamacare.
There you go.
Take care of that. So here it is your rights to life, which you have a right to life, and that's the superseding right of all, right?
Yes.
Well, your right to life has not been violated by my right to fill you full of lead because you broke into my house. You see, you forfeit your right to life by breaking into my house. By violating my rights first, you have waived your rights. And so my right to have a gun to defend myself can't violate any of your rights, because if you follow the law, whether it's Mosaic or statutory or constitutional, if you follow these laws, then you won't be breaking into my home. And if you do that, if you don't violate my rights, then I will never pull my gun to shoot. Now, there are people that will do that, the gunman in Orlando. Okay? But his right to have a gun is not affected by, and he was an American, evidently, so he has a right under the Constitution, an acknowledgement of the Constitution that he has a right to have a gun by God. But he does not have a right to go willy-nilly shooting at people. And so he is violating their rights to life by using his gun. Now, in my definition, that's gun violence. In the definition of the left, that is not gun violence. Gun violence was me sitting here at home with a gun on my head, not going into the club and shooting people. And that's the problem we have in this country, Ken, is that we don't understand what a right is. And we don't know, if we don't know that, then we can think the government can give them and take. Remember what, I forget, maybe Ag or Mary will remember. actually given a long-deserved right to the American people. And I like to die over that. Bad enough Obamacare, but I like to die over that sentence because that meant that somebody in Congress, and probably most people in Congress, actually believe that they have the power to give rights. And that can only come from God, right?
Yes.
You can give me a privilege. You can give me something that statutorily says that I'm entitled to stuff, but that doesn't make it a right, you see.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, reason to stand by. And this we have reached a season where we truly need to be apologetic, not apologizing for what we believe in, but to be apologists for what we believe in, to be able to stand against the wiles of those who happen to be on the left, who believe that they have absolute control over our lives and over our property and over our basic freedom. This is why we come together on Thursday nights, the professor and I, to talk about these issues from Fort Worth and from Washington, D.C., because these are American issues. They're not urban, they're not suburban, they're not rural, they're American issues. Your freedom comes not from the will of man, but from the will of God. I have a few moments. I just want to go quickly to Scripture. And I do mean, you got to be careful when someone says quickly to Scripture, because that might mean they're going to be here for a couple of hours. I don't have that kind of time.
Preach it, brother. Preach it.
This is the best type of sermon you're going to have tonight. I want you to, if you have an opportunity, to go to Hebrews chapter 2, verse 8. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 8. And for those who are following along at home, I'm about to put this into the chat roll at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com in the chat area, the broadcast central area. That way you get it, and you got it, and you're good. But there is a scripture that, well, at least a word that I want you to become accustomed to, and that's the term, and I'll play it for you.
Strong's G 5293. Hupotasso. Hupotasso.
Hupotasso, which basically means to obey, to submit. And often...
Hey, Ken.
Yes.
Tina doesn't like what you're preaching, man. Move on.
Hopefully she's a tither.
Well, she said she just found out you're black.
The scripture Hebrew 2:8 says, "Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all in subjection under him. He left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him." There is a sense of subjection to the will of God and to the word of God that we as Christians must follow and pursue. When we go to James chapter 4, verse 7, it tells us to submit yourselves, therefore, to God, to resist the devil, and he will flee from you. In this particular age, in this particular season of governance, many of us have chosen not to resist the devil of unintended consequences for our noble greed and dissatisfaction for others getting something that we prefer. You see, God didn't create government so that we would infringe upon each other. In fact, he created government, putting it upon his shoulders, that all men might subject themselves not to the flesh, but to the Spirit. And by the Spirit that we follow the laws of the Spirit. And by following those particular laws, joy, peace, long-suffering, and so on, that we would do all that we could not to become an abomination to another. So when we ask our government to take from another man's wallet what rightfully belongs to him, in order that I may pursue my own noble intention, even though it may well put this person from whom I have taken wealth from ill at ease or ill at will. We have done wrong. Then there's another scripture I want to point to as we come to a close of this short sermon. Yes.
This may affect what you choose to talk about, but Westboro Church, over here in Texas,
Yes.
those Nazis, they're going to go to Orlando and protest these burials. I hope, if anybody out there is listening that is part of the Harley Angel team that goes to military funerals, you may want to show up and protect those people from this too, because their families deserve to bury their dead without the intrusion of these godless people from Westboro Church. And this just angers me. It doesn't matter what our politics are. These were human beings and they were killed. And Rolling Thunder and those guys need to get over there.
But
I'm sorry I blew into that, Ken. I was just so angry. It just
no, but
made my head want to pop.
it
So
fits.
go ahead, I apologize. Back to your point.
No, but it fits with exactly what we're saying. While there are laws that we can follow, and Westboro has the right to protest, they have a freedom to protest.
Yes.
We, as Christians, need to remember that it is the dignity of humanity that we must protect, even when we are in opposition to the behavior. We still have to love the sinner. And in loving the sinner, we must resist the devil in the sense that, in fleeing from him, that we honor each other accordingly. Hence, let's put it this way very simply. Not just the Harley guys need to show up, but we as Christians need to show up in love.
Yes.
That means that maybe our churches might open the doors, not to same-sex marriage, but gosh darn it, to their funerals. And we say that it is the love of Jesus for whom we have our power and our grace. As a nation, we have to remember that love of God is greater than love of any cult figure that we raise to the level of president. It is
false idols.
Exactly.
For these people who don't want them to have church funerals because they were sinners, I say that's right. They shouldn't have any funerals in churches of sinners.
Not one of us will die.
Yeah, I think Jesus is probably the only one that they could have a funeral for. The rest of them, and he's not dead. So the rest of us, we're kind of screwed, huh? Because I don't know any of us that haven't sinned. So if that's our benchmark, then why can you trust these preachers on anything else that they talk about? I actually get that. And yes, they have a right to protest, but there is a time and a place.
Yes.
Decorum and dignity. And, you want to have a protest, go in front of your own stupid church. Someone in my chat room over here on Periscope said, quit calling them Baptists. I noticed I didn't call them Baptists because I don't think they're Baptists. They're, anti-Christ worshiping people as far as I know. I just don't understand how you can be human beings and have that kind of hate. Certainly to call yourself a Christian with that kind of hate is kind of
we have to remember
counterintuitive. But right, so regardless, we need to protect these people from their funerals. The British lady turned off my show, so Blog Talk's gone. but Ken, and what you were saying there is exactly right. It's how do we act, right?
Yeah.
And this is imperative, is if we are Christian, that means we have the Holy Spirit in us. If we have the Holy Spirit in us, that means we have Christ in us. If we have Christ in us, then we sure as heck ought to start acting like it, or trying to, and keep focusing on that every time we fail. And so it bothers me to see what's happening in my country and stuff, and how we're going with this. And again, it's because of the manipulations of the media and the far right and far left wingers that aren't following the Constitution, that are creating these scenarios in order to get us emotional, in order to allow them to do things to us. And that's all wrapped up in a nice bow over what we were talking about over the whole show.
Exactly. Coexistence with evil, it is not what God would have us to do. But we can't conquer evil with indignity. We have to conquer it with the kind of love that takes us to the cross. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomsoever believeth in him shall not perish, but shall have eternal life. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you go to the cross, not just for our nation, but also for its people. A young man once told me, always to be brave, never die a coward. I promise you, I always will. On behalf of the good doctor, the good right reverend Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor at undergroundprofessor.us, I am the exceptional one, Ken McClinton, thanking you for listening to New Day Black and Red, live from Fort Worth and live from Washington, D.C. We will be back next Thursday night for more of the best in urban conservative talk. God bless you.
Hoorah. Good night, Kim.
Good night, sir.
Good night, everybody in Periscope.
Thank you.